This is Simeon Mayer.
First.
The first. He was born 8/21/31.
Yeah.
He served in the Army. His highest rank achieved was PFC.
Yeah.
This interview is being recorded in Caledonia, Michigan. He is my great-grandpa, and this interview is being conducted for the Veterans History Project at the Library of Congress.
And I went into the Army on December 6, 1954, which was a long time ago now.
Yeah.
We went through basic training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Then they shipped us up to Washington State at Camp Hanford, which was Atomic Energy Works. We were people to man the guns and the Nike missiles. It was all kind of secret. No airplanes could fly over without getting shot down unless they identified themselves. And if they didn't identify themselves, the sirens all went off and the anti-aircraft guns picked up and they followed the airplane. All we had to do was say shoot, and they would come down until they identified themselves. So it was pretty secretive. Atomic bomb was still being made there at that time.
So what did you do there?
I was working with the post engineers most of the time. We'd go out to the gun positions and fix whatever they had. If their furnaces didn't work, or their air conditioners, or whatever the post engineers did, I was kind of a helper for them. And that was a kind of a nice job. We had to go about all this. The guns positions were about 30 miles, and then they were 15 miles apart, so quite a big area. And that's what we did. We traveled 2 or 3 places a day and then come back home and take all day to get that far away. So it was kind of interesting. But we never had any incidents where somebody wouldn't identify themselves, which I was glad.
Okay, so what was your life before you got drafted? What was it like?
What was it like before? Well, there was the Korean War was on, and it was a bad war. They expected to be done with the war in just a short time. Instead of dragged out a long time, a lot of soldiers suffered for it. But the economy here was, I would say, as good as it is, or better than it is now. And there was a lot of building going on, and if you were a carpenter, you could get a job. I did work part-time carpenter work and part-time farming in the summer and carpenter work in the winter. So I learned how to do carpenter work. I worked at it 11 winters.
So then, when you got drafted, were you like okay with that? Like, did you want to like?
Yeah, I knew. We knew that it was coming. They give us 2 or 3 months warning, so we knew that it was coming, and we had to go for a physical. The physical was ahead of time, so that I think we had 2 physicals. If you passed them both, then you went. And you just had to be able to breathe, I think, and you passed.
Yeah.
No, it was an interesting time as far as that goes, and a lot of things. It wasn't like the Second World War that shut down everything, but the economy was still pretty good, and there was lots of people around to work. It didn't take nowhere near as many people in the Army at that time. So I did a lot of farming after I got out.
So
Still doing a little today.
Yeah. So then, what was like your basic training like? Where'd you go?
I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and it was regular infantry type training. They did have a little second. Well, it was about 5 or 6 months of infantry training, and then another month or 6 weeks of special training, which was electrical and blasting. Like blasting bridges and different kinds of stuff to blast with, which was interesting. And then, so my MOS, they call it, the job I was trained for was electrician. They call that your MOS number. But that was for going overseas. If our outfit had to go overseas and set up a campground in the wilderness, like there's nothing there. We had our own generators and everything to put up a camp with high lines and transformers, everything to work with. But we didn't have to use it.
So then,
oh yeah,
sorry, continue.
We just went to something else. Well, right after that, they shipped me over to Camp Hanford, Washington, and there was no electrical work to do there. Then after that, they shipped me to Beale Air Force Base, California, which was just being built. And the job I had, or our outfit was working at, is building a new main gate. And we had some forms that we made special bricks, 16 inches long out of cement, and then we laid them up and made, that went on the entrance to the camp. Everybody had to come through the main gate. It was. Well, that was kind of interesting, but after that, I think it was in the middle of the winter, which winter wasn't too bad down there. And it did freeze a little, but anyway, you kind of had to find something to do for yourself because there wasn't much projects going on. So what I found to do was to go to the PX and buy me a spinning rod and reel and some salmon eggs, and got in the car and went up in the mountains and we went trout fishing. Almost 5 days a week, and we always caught brook trout. And I'd catch about 5 or 6 and come home, we'd eat them, and then next day, if there wasn't any project, I'd go again. So that's how it was.
So how long were you there for?
1 year about. In Camp Hanford, in Beale Air Force Base.
Okay.
I came there in August and left in July. So, and went back home and started all over again. But we did have a 40-acre farm and a house, and we had my dad's farm and other land that we rented along with my brother and I. Lester farmed. They farmed together till 1986 when he had pancreatic cancer and passed away. And then we didn't milk cows no more. We just cropped, farmed with crops, no cows after that. And now I'm just about 92, so I'm not doing a whole lot, probably more than I should, but I kind of keep busy at something all the time, something. I've got a lot of things to fix around the farm. It's a steady job.
So, were any of your family members drafted?
Pardon?
Were any of your family members drafted or in the service as well?
We had three. We had one drafted in Second World War, 1944, 43, my brother was. Then in 1951, I think it was, my brother Vic was drafted, and he went to Germany. Then after that, 54, somewhere in there, Vic was in 2 years, and I was drafted for 2 years, but I got out 6 months early because there was nothing for me to be there for, and they were changing camps. Our project we worked on was canceled, so I got home 6 months early, which was nice. And that was the end of all my military work. I didn't join any other outfits.
Mm-hmm.
So, and here I am, still at the same farm we were when I left for the Army.
So, what did your brother do for World War II?
Well, the one that was near my age, Vic, he was a carpenter. He built houses pretty well all his life. And I worked for the same guy, but just part-time. And mainly my main thing is farming. We milked cows and sent grade A milk for about 25 years. And we bought 3 or 4 different farms down through the years. Whenever there was one for sale, pretty much nearby, we would buy it. And now, probably 1 acre of those farms is worth as much as we paid for them.
Mm-hmm.
So it kept up with inflation, which was, and it still does. Farms will still keep up. So if you want to invest money, buy some land, but it's much, much higher. But life has been good to us. We had a family and raised them all. We had one pass away a couple of years ago, but we've had a good living farming.
So, would you say you used any of your things that you learned, like in the Army, in like your everyday life?
I don't think anybody wants in our family will be farmers. You have to have at least $1 million to start out with, and it's so hard for them to get started. That's one of the problems with farming, because the land got so high. Young people can't hardly make a living. Something to subsidize it.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you can find, it makes a lot of money.
So, what would you say was the scariest part of your service?
The scariest part? You know, we never had, like in the Army, I never had any close calls. Once I got out of the infantry, I turned my rifle in. And that was the end of the infantry for me. We were in the engineer corps. So it was all, we had no big problems. Everybody got along good. No big issues. It was pretty nice, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you have any like friends in the service that you like still know today?
We do, and they're not, well, within 100 miles of here. I think one couple is still alive. And we do contact them. We used to go over there and they used to come here, but now that we got near 100 years old, they probably aren't any better off than we are, so we don't do a lot of traveling, but we can still travel. We do pretty good, yeah. But other than that, no, I don't have any people that I talk to steady or anything. We did have a group that kind of traveled together, about 6 of us. When one would get transferred, the group of 6 would all go together, same place.
Most all of our Christians.
And we had fun. And it was a kind of, after we got out of basic, or after we got to Beale Air Force Base, and we had a pretty good time there. We had a big flood in the winter. The city that we were acquainted with, a nearby city, which was Yuba City and Marysville, it rained for 1 week steady and hard, night and day, and the levees broke on the river and killed a lot of people in the town. A wall of water went through the town. A lot of people died. They weren't expecting that.
Mm-hmm. And when was that?
Pardon?
When was that?
That was Christmas time, and 1955. So it was just a few days till 56 then. It was after Christmas. And it was one of the worst floods they'd had in years. So it's kind of a sad occasion, because they weren't expecting the levees to break. And I remember I went up to, we were living off base at the time, so I went up to the headquarters in our barracks there to see what is going on, whether they had any troops sandbagging the river or anything. No, this guy was in charge, called him a barracks orderly that night. I says to him, I knew he had a wife and a little girl. Says, well, where is your wife and little girl? Well, she's in Yuba City, and that's supposed to be the safe place. Marysville is a twin city. Well, the poor guy was wrong, because he got up the next morning and his wife and daughter were floating dead out in the backyard of his house at Christmas, with all the Christmas presents floating around too. That was a sad occasion.
Mm-hmm.
So we made it through the Army and back home, and here we are.
Yeah.
And all you guys showed up after that.
Yeah.
And here you are.
So could you still like communicate with like your family while you were in California and Washington?
We would not telephone much. We didn't even have a telephone. No, we had to go someplace to use the phone. So we would write letters. No, we didn't have a phone. And as far as the Army having phones,
Did you
I don't
tell
think
them
they didn't have very good communication, because they had a kind of like a bag phone, which if we had two crews, like we were working on one side of the river and we want to talk across the other side of the river, we
Did you come
supposed to be able to crank the phone
early Sunday?
and get them, but it wouldn't work that far away. So it's poor communication.
Yeah.
That's all changed. Really changed. But I don't know if it's any different than the agriculture. Agriculture is, in my lifetime, is advanced and changed more than all of history combined, by far.
Yeah.
So we have to feed all these people.
So if you had like one life lesson that you would say you got from being in service, what would you say it was?
One life lesson, you say? Well, probably if there were some things that if I had known what was coming, I could have avoided them, but looking back, I don't know of any mistakes. I don't know any mistakes. It was really bad. I've had some accidents, yes, but I'm still able to walk and do what I need to do at this age. So I think we did pretty good.
And if you could do it all over again, would you?
Well, you know, I was talking to another fellow that's my age, and he said the same thing that I'm going to say. I don't think I would change things very much. And he was a crane operator all his life, and he felt that he found his niche in life. He loved to operate crane. And he's 92 and comes to coffee, same age about, and he don't walk with a cane either. Yeah, he said if he had it to do over again, he'd do the same thing.